In a democracy, what happens? If a government is not performing, we have a system. Every 5 years, you can conduct an election. If the people, if they are dissatisfied with the government, they can vote by making a change in the government. That is how democracies are celebrated all over the world. But how do the people exercise or franchise their votes? It is only through the writings, criticizing the act of the government, by giving a clear picture. And what do the press they do? It's not like what you work on the air-conditioned hall and make a talk or tall intellectual writing through armchair proceedings. Journalists, what they do, they take a risk in their life. They go to the battlefield. They cover the war. And whenever there is a corruption, to expose the corruption, they take life risk and bring the truth. And they take on the mighty people. If there is a corruption in the bureaucracy or in the judiciary, they expose it. Including many of the scandals that has rocked this nation. You take LIC scandal, a Bofo scandal, or any scandal across the country, Arshad Mehta scandal, all these scandals were exposed only by the journalist and by the media. Fearless media who expose the negative act of the media, a negative act of the government before the eyes of the public. Now, during this period, the famous writer in the world, John Milton, who wrote the Paradise Lost, he said one poignant thing. We talk about liberty. Today, death anniversary of Ambedkar, the architect of the person who wrote the Indian Constitution. The preamble of the Constitution says, liberty, equality and fraternity. He said that, give me the liberty to know, to utter and argue upon the consciousness than any other liberties in the world. So we talk about liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship. But which liberty is very, very important? The liberty to know, to utter and argue. That means first you should receive the information, find out the truth, foundational truth, involved in any democratic setup, involved in any government, then to utter, to speak. Then intellectual people, through way of editorials, by way of letters, through way of circulars, they argue. Sometimes, Lord Macaulay, he said, there was another judge, interestingly he wrote, you do not have any right to criticize or praise the government. So government is considered to be a sovereign, but in the modern trend it is not so. And whenever the writers or the people, when they start writing against the government, these rebellious writings were considered to be libellous in nature. As a result, they were prosecuted for defamation, for defaming the government, which the British government, even what they did, they introduced section 121 IPC, that is incitement, sedition. If you take Bala Gangadhara Tilak, the trial of sedition case, and even such charges were foisted upon the father of nation, Mahatma Gandhi. When you can imagine a situation if the Britishers, the church, the canonical power, if they are not willing to grant such a power even to its own citizens, British people, could they have granted or delegated this power to a colonial regime? Of course not. So Ambedkar thought about this in a very beautiful way. He understood that Indian political system are about the same sex and various other rights traversing the morality of an individual, because people, they are subject to have their own interpretation and connotations. You are not supposed to follow the rest of the society in toto. When he was appointed as a professor in the New York by Thomas Manning for Dr. Ambedkar in the Columbia Law School. When Dr. Ambedkar was a student at the Columbia Law School, he said that, Dr. John Dewey, I owe all my intelligence and knowledge. And later period, when the alma mater wanted to give him a doctorate, the Columbia Law School, when Dr. Ambedkar went to New York to receive his doctoral degree, he was very, very happy that he is going to meet his professor after a long, long period. But when Ambedkar landed, before he was supposed to land in New York, unfortunately his professor John Dewey passed away. He made a very deep resentment and hurtful feelings regarding this particular sordid episode. Now, when Ambedkar as a journalist, in America it has got a big history, the right of the press. In West Virginia versus Barnett Board of Education, because right from John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, the founding fathers of the American Constitution, because our Indian Constitution is nothing but a product of an European and American law. Having underwent the trials and travails of the freedom of the press came to the forefront only after the French and the American Revolution. After the French Revolution in 1789, when America became independent in 1776, they had the writings of three eminent writers, John Locke, Montesquieu and Rousseau. Press, to the media, to the people at large, because they are the voice of the people. Media people, but what happens here, interestingly, 90% of the population, that's what Karl Marx said, religion is nothing but an opium of the masses. Why he said? 90% of the people are uneducated. Uneducated in the sense, there was a famous journalist in America, he said, if you read newspaper, you are ill-informed. If you don't read newspaper, you are uninformed. So it is a stage between ill-informed and uninformed. When are you correctly or rightly informed? When you are correctly informed, when the journalism exposes the real truth. So, journalists, they play a very, very pivotal role in the modern society. In modern contemporary period, journalists are the change makers, chain makers, 12 shopkeepers. Who are they to give a clearance on my writing? Because it is like an air. I have a right to breathe. So I have a right to think or condemn or praise or criticize. You can I wrote an article 15 years back. It is on the topic radicalist, resurrectionist and reactionaries Indian democracy. Because in my native state of Tamil Nadu, there was a famous writer called Perumal Murugan. You might have heard about him. When he wrote the book Madhuru Bogan, a famous book criticizing the prevalent social setup. Many people, they try to kill him because, as I said, historically, people who were rebellious in nature, who wrote, their books were burned, they were given the punishment of pillory, they were stoned to death, they were mutilated, they have sacrificed. For what? To protect the rights of the press, to protect their voice.
We know that your library worth is almost 9 crore rupees actually, the book you are having in your library. This is the reflection. And many people, even sometimes we call him judge's nightmare, all over the places, not only from the trial court up to Supreme Court. So this is the reflection that you may be having the library worth of 9 crore rupees, but you are having also secret library at your home, 3 floors. Sometime you will get an opportunity to get some benefit out of that. And you said in the beginning that no, quantity does not matter, it's a quality.
हमारे चैनल
कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन
लाइक
शेयर
सब्सक्राइब
देखना
मत भूलिएगा।
जय भीम
जय भारत,
जय संविधान।
नमो बुद्धाय।
धन्यवाद।
चैनल आर्थिक समस्या से गुजर रहा है। अगर आप बहुजन समाज में बाबा साहेब अम्बेडकर और तथागत बुद्ध की विचारधारा को अधिक से अधिक लोगों तक पहुंचाना चाहते हैं तो हमें आर्थिक सहयोग प्रदान करें ताकि हम अपने चैनल के माध्यम से देश विदेश में समता, बंधुता, एकता और संवैधानिक अधिकारों को ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोगों तक पहुंचा सकें। आप अपनी सहायता राशि नीचे लिखे खाते में जमा करा सकते हैं। खाता धारक गौतम रत्ना, खाता संख्या 3169576861, IFSC कोड SBIN 0060336, बैंक भारतीय स्टेट बैंक। आप हमारे बैंक खाते का विवरण स्क्रीन पर भी देख सकते हैं।